Ma'am, your skin isn't a dry erase board. You are not a human Etch-a-Sketch. Background, I manage a tattoo shop, buckle up, this is a long ride. Normally I cover the opening shift but my new guy had some stuff they needed to handle that day so I pulled a double BC. I'm not a holy boss like that. Anyways, it's about 30 minutes to close, everybody is gone except one artist, and I'm knocking out closing duties and chores when a young lady comes frantically rushing in. She is just in shambles and wound all the way up. She shows me a tattoo on her outer lower forearm, the side of her lower arm, that she said she got done here 2 days ago. It's a basic script font of a name. Lee Sincere. But she keeps insisting it's backwards, twice, both ways, it's got to be fixed now. Can't you just redo it? I try to understand what she means, and she's just becoming more and more unglued. I go get the artist that's still there to try and help while I get a hold of the artist who did the work. The artist still there managed to get it out of her after about 5 minutes of back and forth confusion and frustration that the name was supposed to read Sincere Lee, sincerely, not Lee Sincere. He pitches the idea of covering up the Lee and just adding it to the end of Sincere, and just essentially moving the placement further down the forearm in the end. But she says no because it's still backwards. Okay, what in the actual FK, and between every scattered, flustered, and highly agitated response we ask from her we are being just constantly hit with, I can't believe he did it backwards. This has to be fixed. He just needs to come redo it. Face with raised eyebrow, face with raised eyebrow. I hand her a pen and piece of paper and tell her to write it out what she means. Please write out what she expected the tattoo to say exactly so I can help her. I get the responsible artist on the phone. Yes, he did the piece. Not only did he set the stencil twice, but the first stencil he laid down said, Sincere Lee, to which he said, wait for it, N-O-I-T-S backwards, and had him flip the names to Lee Sincere. Exploding head upside down face? He sets the second stencil, she gives him the go-ahead, and she watches him do the entire piece. He said he tried to engage in conversation with her, but she ignored him and just stared at the work being done. She watched the entire piece, start to finish. Now everyone is really FKN confused. I look over at her and her paper and she's having an absolute meltdown trying to write out what she wanted. I ask if she checked the stencil, she admits she did. I ask if she watched any of the tattoo being done, again, yes. ADP I feel like I'm being punked. I'm staring at my artist, he's staring at me, we're both befuddled beyond belief. And the customer is still just repeating, it's got to be fixed. I don't know why he did it backwards. And, why can't he just redo it? She also finally handed me her paper. And Jesus fucking Christ on a goddamn saltine cracker y'all. It's backwards both ways. Equals she wanted the text mirror imaged and the name to be going up her arm towards her, instead of down the arm. The guess for the first name starting at her wrist and the rest of the name following up the arm towards her. This is where both of us kinda snap and start to lose patience and empathy with her. Ma'am, you saw the stencil, changed it, and cleared it, correct? Yes, and you watched work being done, right? Yes? Okay, babe, if it was wrong why did you do that and not say something again? And I shit you not. I didn't think about it then, but you can just redo it now. I don't see why you can't just redo it. You can just go over it and make it look the right way. My dad noticed that he did the names wrong and said something to me so it has to be fixed now. Neutral face, neutral face, neutral face, all empathy and patience is now gone. Obliterated. Extinct. Even if it could be redone, which it can't be, you can't go over fresh ink. It has to heal first, and then you can cover it, laser it, or rework it like we first said but it won't be mirrored. Your skin isn't a dry erase board, you are not a human Etch-a-Sketch. Tattoos aren't washable. You chose this design not once, but twice, and you watched it be done, and then waited 2 days later to come back. There's nothing more that can be done right now. So I just have to live with a messed up tattoo? You're just gonna make me walk around. Gets cut off. Ma'am, respectfully, none of us made you do anything. This was your choice. You did this. There is nothing more that can be done at this moment and we are closing down. She storms off throwing a huffy hissy fit the entire time, all the way out the building, and then once she left she attempted to call the shop and complain to the manager. Welp, surprise SHAAAWWWTYYY. That's me, and I said what I said. More hissy fit ensues, more repetition of the same, just go over it. Redo it. And Imma be honest, I hung up on her. I just simply could not any longer. Comments.
Someone else came up with the idea for the tattoo. She liked it but didn't really understand it. 2 days later she's spoken to the originator of the idea, and they've pointed out it's wrong. She doesn't want to admit she's an idiot. Lots of idiots don't. Otherwise they'd have to add a disclaimer to every interaction they have. It's her kid's name too. Personally that I think happened was she thought by flipping his names from Sincere Lee to Lee Sincere, when she held up her arm in the mirror image would flip his name back around to the correct way, a no. She sounds like the kind of person who eats at a restaurant's patio and complains about the sun moving into her eyes. I wish I could truly convey how flustered she was and how it got worse and worse with each response, Like I was the dumbass who didn't understand basic English. And can we talk about how F***king stupid the design was anyways? Mirrored and up the arm? It's still going to be backwards in the mirror.
If you enjoy Reddit stories, hit the like button and subscribe. Now, let's jump right into today's story. Airport gate seating. A mind-boggling exchange at the airport this weekend. The gates were packed. The seating area is full, people standing around and sitting on the floor. I spot an open seat at the end of 3 chairs. At the far end was a woman, bags in the middle seat, the last seat is open. So I sit down. She looks up from her phone, that's my husband's seat. I point at the bags and ask, who is sitting there? She scowls and repeats that I'm in her husband's seat. I tell her he can sit where the bags are. We bicker back and forth and I tell her, it's standing room only, you don't need 3 seats for 2 people. Her husband returns from wherever he was. He's glaring at me and together they huff away to stand at their gate. For the next 10 minutes I'd look up to see them scowling at me, then laughing at me. Whatever. I enjoyed sitting, as did the 2 others that grabbed the vacated seats. I'm too old for that crap. Comments.
The bags can move, they don't need a seat. I have traveled with heavy and awkward bags that I didn't want to lift from the floor. One got the seat, one on the ground and I stood. But no, your bags don't rate their own seat. 100% I did that recently at Detroit where a guy told me the same thing and I even said, I'll get up when they come back. And they had bags on the seat. Shockingly, no one came back for 15M. And I didn't get up. Exact same thing happened to me, same conversation, up to when the husband returned. She started griping, and he just stood there, didn't even look at me. She never moved the bags and he never sat down.
Gym patron refuses to leave once closing time is called. Starting on June 8 last month, signs were posted at the front desk and door saying July 3 the gym I work for will be closing early at noon for the 4th and will reopen July 6. Emails were also sent and gym members were told at the end of their training sessions. A lot of people took notice, all except one today. When 11:50 a.m. rolled in, my boss announced over the PA system, we will be closing in 10 minutes, please finish your workout in a safe manner and we will see you all on Monday. Thank you and have a safe 4th of July everyone. The one person finished what I observed to be their last repetition of bicep curls, wipes down the weights and bench, puts dumbbells back but then heads to a nearby bench to set up doing chest press with bar. I walk up and say, excuse me? We're closing soon. Guy I can tell is ignoring me through music in his headphones. I get an air horn used to alert gym members if they're breaking the rules and I blast it, which makes the guy unplug his earphones. He says, whoa, what's with the air horn? I didn't break any rules. I told him, we're closing in 7 minutes, you need to leave, we'll be open again on Monday. Guy shrugs me off and goes to get weight plates. I remove the bar and when he returns he asks me what my problem is. He'll only be a few minutes. I again tell him we're closing and he refuses to leave. I go to a nearby phone and call my boss saying we got a straggler. My boss makes her presence be seen and she tells the guy if he doesn't leave she'll call the police and have him escorted out and charged with trespassing. They get into an intense stare-off with Guy eventually leaving to the locker room, then leaving the building. My boss said she'll look over the security footage on Monday and have the front desk do a cross-reference to find which member he is and issue a suspension of his membership. Update, so just to clarify to one commenter, I didn't blast the air horn in the guy's face, I was a good distance away where I knew the sound would travel towards him and he would hear me. To other commenters, a business though they say close by one time, they can certainly close earlier if needed to make sure that there are no loose ends left to be dealt with after being closed for a few days, such as any leftover trash, discarded Gatorade/Powerade/water bottles, etc. So for those who defended my boss and I for telling the guy it was time to go, thank you. Elderly thinks he's entitled to my disabled seat because he's old. I was on the bus, sitting by the window. You should know that I have a physical disability, which means I have to use a walking stick or a crutch. I use a crutch because walking sticks hurt my wrist. There was someone sitting next to me who stood up when an elderly man with a walking stick got on. He gestured for me to stand up, which threw me off for a few seconds because my crutch was clearly visible. I pointed it out to him. He said, stand up, just to emphasize the point. The seat next to me was empty and there was another one available not far away. But no, he wanted my seat. I explained to him that I have a disability. He replied, okay, but you're younger than me, move over. I told him that just because I'm young doesn't mean I'm not disabled. He eventually gave up on my seat and sat down next to me, but it still really pissed me off. Comments.
You're older than me, you should have learned manners. It's the luck of the draw. I had an injury when I was young, about 26, and required a red temporary disabled hanging placard for my car. An elderly woman tried to get me out of a disabled parking spot saying I was too young to be disabled and red placards didn't exist. I took a picture of her and her car, then told her to feel free to call the police. I started limping in for my appointment and said, if my car has any damage when I come out, I will call the police to report you. I'll assume they told her what she needed to know and I never saw her again. They would have told her that if you had a placard displayed, then any details of your disability, why you have the placard, are exactly none of her business. My partner has a disability tag for our vehicle, and when we're out, the only thing I check on vehicles in disabled parking spaces is whether it has a tag or not. I don't care if you hop out and bounce all over place. The tag is all that matters. Plus, if that person is picking up the person the tag is actually for, then they are legally allowed to park in a disabled space. Agreed. With my dad, when he was starting to have issues walking and couldn't drive anymore, he gave me his blue placard to use in my car. But I would only use it when transporting him to his appointments or taking him and Mom out to eat. I wouldn't think of using it when I was still able-bodied and not driving him. 18 years after he passed, it's my turn to have my own blue placard. I have back pain that comes and goes, and my doctor told me it's for those bad days, but to try and park far on good days to get steps in. So far so good. I felt ridiculous parking in a disabled spot on a good day, so I like the doc's idea. But on painful days, it sure is nice to be able to run errands and save a few painful steps so I can get more done. Not all physical disabilities are obvious. From my experience, I learned not to judge others about it.
Guess the entitled passengers. I flew Delta today. I was assigned to 23D, but when I got there, an early 20s hippie chick with giant patchwork bell-bottoms was sitting in my seat. I asked her politely which seat she was assigned to, and she sort of snottily replied, 23C. I nicely let her know she was sitting in 23D, she smiled and sheepishly moved. She wasn't entitled. Then a nice oldish, larger, this detail is important to the story, couple came, and the wife politely let me know I was in her seat. I told her I could show my boarding pass, but she had her husband check, and they were actually 23E and F. They apologized and offered me gum and chocolate. The woman in the middle stayed in her space. They weren't entitled. Now let me tell you about my connecting flight. I am assigned a middle seat, and when I get there, a mother and daughter are on either side of my seat, and they have lots of things on my seat, and nothing under theirs. By the way, they are relaxed in their seats and not trying to move anything under the seats in front of them. I let them know that was my seat, and the daughter grumbles the whole time she was struggling to put her bag going under the seat. They both had the arm rests up, they were both technically obese, and when I said, "Excuse me," and slowly put the arm rest down as I sat, the mother let me know she was more comfortable with it up. I gave a smile apology, and let her know I needed them down. I did not mention to her that when I got there, over half of my seat was taken up by her and her daughter. Even with the armrest down, they both overflowed in my seat. Their shoulders were so broad they couldn't help, but their legs were lady spreading, and although I asked them more than once to move their legs, they had no problem resting their arms and legs on mine across the armrest barrier. Also, before I sat down, I asked if either wanted to switch me, and of course they said no, but kept talking loudly over me. They passed a few items back and forth before I let them know they needed to stop, and I would still switch with either of them if they need to share things. It was a full flight, so I couldn't move. Also, I'm fairly small and didn't want to cause a commotion over them not fitting in their own seats. Can you guess who is entitled? Comments.
I'm guessing they bought the window and the aisle seats in the hopes that nobody would take the middle seat and they could sprawl, but it being a full flight messed up their plans. Up. I could have gotten the flight attendant, but honestly, the whole thing with the armrest and then passing things over me, I handled politely but firmly myself. It's always good to try to be polite and give people the benefit of the doubt. If they would have continued arguing with me, I would have got the attendant. On a full flight, I once arrived at my middle seat, which was flanked each side by a married couple. They gave me the stink eye and said they were hoping it would be empty. I offered to change seats with either of them so they could sit together. They both refused, saying they each hated the middle seat. As I took my spot, they continued to whine that I was sitting there. I just popped my ear pods in and became immersed in my device. Yes, there are those entitled passengers that expect an empty middle seat. That's a quick ding for an FE, then a polite, "Hi, I think I'm having trouble getting set up in my seat." Exactly. You don't have to argue with them yourself, just let the flight attendant handle it themselves. Up. I handle the armrest and passing things back and forth easily enough myself. But you're right, I should have said something to them about their legs, because for some reason they had no problem leaning their legs on my legs in my space. I probably asked them about 3 times to move their legs, and they would, but they'd always end up back in my space. It was about an hour and 40-minute flight. A fake sneeze as they are passing something across usually solves that quickly, as does a turned head. Fake cough in either direction can give some space as well.
Some people can be quite selfish. I'm currently sitting in my car at a Walmart parking lot typing this out, when I witnessed this encounter at the checkout line. I had come in to pick up my wife's medicine from the pharmacy, as well as pick up a few snacks, some deli meat, and some fruit. Didn't take long, just took my own reusable bag and was out in about 20 or so minutes. So I'm standing at the checkout line, there's a woman, and a father with their child ahead of me, and a woman with her cart full at the front paying with her card. She's making small talk with the cashier, except the problem is every time she talks, she stops moving. She has to finish her sentence before she takes her bag off her shoulder, has to finish laughing before she can take her card out, has to finish talking when she finally inserts the card into the chip reader. The people ahead of me were visibly getting annoyed, and the cashier is clueless, as she's just laughing and continuing the conversation like they're the only two in line. Anyway, the card goes in, and it declines. Woman laughs it off, tries again. Declines. Now she's frustrated but tries again. Still declined. So she asks to use only a certain amount of funds, and she'll pay the rest with cash. Cashier rings her up, remaining total is $60-ish. Woman only has $30 something. Cashier explains she still has a remaining balance, and the woman tries arguing that, well yes, I know that, clearly, and gets huffy about it. Cashier explains maybe she can put some stuff back and void the purchase, but the woman declines, saying that there must be something you can do. You're here to help, right? The cashier tries explaining nicely that they're only a cashier, and that they can't really do much on their end. The woman starts sighing, saying she and her girlfriend, who presumably wasn't in the store, were really looking forward to having a nice night tonight with all I bought. The cashier apologizes, and suggests coming back another time when she has enough money. The woman sighs again, dramatically this time, and looks down into her bag with a shake of her head, saying, it's times like these when the world needs good Samaritans, you know what I mean. The cashier is getting tired at this point, and just nods and says, I'm sure. The people in front of me get the hint, and the woman in front of me grabs her shopping basket and gets out of line. The man crosses his arms and looks pissed off, and tells his kid to look to see if there are shorter checkout lines, or if self-checkout is available. The kid leaves, then comes back and says there are long lines anywhere else. The dad grunts and shakes his head. Me? I just turned my head and found a bag of barbecue chips to suddenly be the most fascinating thing in the world. I can see from the corner of my eye, the woman paying is looking back at the line she's holding up, and she audibly sighs and pulls out $100 bill, bitch WTF. Are you actual? She pays, and the cashier acts surprised, saying, oh, well will you look at that. It's your lucky day after all. The woman replies, yeah, I guess so, and finally pays, grabs her card, and gives an almost disgusted look at the people in line and scoffs, saying, it doesn't kill to be kind. Some people can be quite selfish. Oh, bite me. Neighbor wants to put my dogs on a schedule to go outside. About 5 years after we bought our house, the house above us sold. We have 1.5 acres on a slope, and the house above us has about the same amount of property, and for all the time we lived there we couldn't even see the house due to trees and vegetation. Then he decided to clear it all out for a better view, and my dogs, that I had when he purchased the home, started barking when he was on his deck. To them it was like someone in our yard since they hadn't seen him before due to the trees. They are small dogs, 10 pounds, and didn't bark for any length of time, but when they would first go out and he was on his deck they would bark for a few minutes. One evening we get a text from the guy that says, shut your dogs up, I'm on a business Zoom meeting. My initial reaction was to stay outside with them and get the squeaky toys so they would bark like crazy, but I let them potty then brought them inside. Later I texted and reminded him that they didn't bark until he cleared all the trees, and that they don't go outside alone, so it's not like they are out barking endlessly. He texts back and says he would like us to agree to schedule for letting them out so he can work on his deck. I said no, we would not agree to that, reminded him that we had the dogs when he bought his house and that it wasn't reasonable to try and dictate our schedule. This happened 2 years ago and we still can't believe the level of entitlement. Edit to clarify, this is a rural area and our properties don't even touch. He is above us on a sloped property and there is a private road between our properties. We each have over an acre of property. Karen out in the wild, Aldi's edition. Obligatory not my story. This happened to my mom. Also on mobile. So my mom was at Aldi's, buying her cotton candy grapes, and was checking out. She put down the divider and placed her grapes on the belt. Karen, turning around, what are you doing? Mom, I'm putting my stuff up. Karen, wait your turn. Mom, I did, that's why I put the divider up. Karen, could you not? My mother, being the sweet lady she is, decided to oblige her. So they all check and she goes to her car. Guess who was parked next to her? Karen. Her cart is kinda behind my mom's car, but she figured it wouldn't be long so she gets in. Karen sees her get in, and leaves the cart there after she's finished. So Mom, in an unusual turn of events, rolls down the window, and cusses at her calling her an F***INGC****, which apparently spooked the lady into moving her cart. Mom goes home, embarrassed that she cussed, and her husband says he's proud of her and laughs because my mom doesn't like cussing. TLDR, Karen gets pissy at my mom for using the dividers at the checkout at Aldi's. Tries to inconvenience my mother, and Mom loses her cool. Mom gets to go home and put her grapes in the freezer. We know it's hot, Karen. We've been waiting in this heat for hours. My husband and I attended a science fiction convention where there was a panel for a popular franchise with several of the main actors. When we arrived 1.5-2 hours in advance, there were already enough people waiting that the line was outside the building and around the corner. It was the middle of a very hot, humid summer day. We were wearing heavy cosplays with foam and 3D printed armor pieces, think trash bag in terms of breathability. We seriously considered just how much we really cared about this franchise. Alas, we are dedicated nerds. We ended up talking to the people in line around us, and quickly realized we had a lot in common with people who liked the same thing as us. Who knew? As the sun beat down more and more, we shared cooling packs, fans, and water. By the time the line started moving, we had formed a bond with our line buddies. The way that the line moved, there was one point where the organizer had us stop and leave a big gap behind me for people crossing another way. Several people saw this, assumed the line was surprisingly short, and hopped behind me, before they were told, the end of the line is down the block and around the corner. Most people looked at the line behind them, realized their mistake, and sadly walked to the end of the line. But not Karen and Kevin. Karen got behind me. I told her where the end of the line is. She ignored me and called for Kevin and her friends to come join her in the short line. The people in front of me spoke up. Karen finally realized she couldn't just pretend she didn't hear multiple people telling her she's cutting. She said, "It's so hot. We don't want to walk all the way to the end of the line. We're just going to stand here." People continued pushing back. Their friends quickly left, but Kevin refused and basically said, "Too bad. What are you going to do?" Everyone was taken aback in stunned silence long enough for Kevin to think that settled it. He and Karen looked smugly at everyone who wasn't clever enough to blatantly cut the line. Then the organizer came back. Several of us pointed out the cutters. Karen tried to lie and say they'd been there all along. The organizer looked like they were going to let her get away with it, just to avoid the he said she said, when the gap closed. Our line buddies hugged us and greeted us by name. Then they looked at Karen and Kevin, and said, "Who are they?" That did settle it. The organizer suggested Karen and Kevin review the convention rules on their badges, before they were confiscated, and sent them on their sad, defeated way. It was an awesome panel. Edit TOADD, congratulations to the person who guessed this was at DragonCon. It was a Baldur's Gate 3 panel shortly after they swept all the gaming awards, with the voice actors for Asterion, Shadowheart, and WYLL and a director. The line buddy who asked, "Who are they?" was dressed as Karlach and was wielding a very big axe. Comments.
At San Diego Comic-Con, they'd have been hounded out of the vicinity. Most cons are death to line cutters, but are kinda English that way. Especially if you're getting autographs. To be fair, San Diego Comic-Con has the sponsorship to have hired security. This was DragonCon, which is volunteer-run. I was at an amusement park with my son and nephew when they were much younger. A group cut the line behind me in front of a group of young teenagers and were bullying the kids to do something about it. I caught the attention of one of the group that got cut and told him to just wait it out. Once I got to the front, I pointed out the line cutters. By then they thought they had gotten away with it. The ride attendant called them out of the line and told them if they were caught again, he would call security to escort them out of the park. The group of 8 line cutters now had the walk of shame to the back of the line, which was considerably much longer by now. Those younger kids were so happy it made my day. It's never a good idea to try to cut the line at a con. People will call others on it, and sometimes the people cosplaying as some type of interstellar security will just fall into perfect character and physically escort the line cutters to the back of the line. They aren't actually part of the event organizers, they're just fans at DNGF.
She lost the election, then tried to tell me whether I could accept the position. My director is truly a piece of work. I work in higher education and career services. In my state, there is an executive board in student affairs/career services that has a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, assistants, etc. The purpose of the organization is to provide professional development presentations for professionals in career services in student affairs in the state. I served on the board for 2 years as an assistant. Every 2 years, we do re-elections. It is an extremely easy volunteer job for all roles. One woman on the board reached out to me in April and asked if I was interested in the VP role because she was running for president. I agreed and she nominated me. The ballots came out in May. I find out that my NARC director nominated herself for VP. She has never been on the board, and we were the only 2 running for this role. I never said anything to her, she never said anything to me. There was some chatter in the office that we were running against each other. Well, the results came out today and I won. I was so excited. I never held a higher role in my life. I know it was just for the board, but I felt so proud. But I knew my NARC boss would get upset. I blew it off and told myself I'm jumping ahead and she may be okay. Well, shortly after she saw the results, she emailed me this. "Congrats. But I'm concerned about you managing this. You also are teaching a class this fall at the university. You need to talk to me about my concerns before you accept. I have been doing the teaching job for years now and need it because it pays. She has to authorize approval to allow me to teach each year because it is an extra job. The board work is simple. It would be on brand for her to retaliate and take away the teaching job if I refuse to give her this role. I guess I made a huge mistake winning fair and square." Comments.
Time to talk to you employer's HR department. with a copy of the email and your concerns over retaliation. The best thing OP's director did was put this in writing. Document, OP. RT. Like, thank God these power-tripping narcissists are usually too arrogant to realize they're leaving a paper trail. OP needs to forward that email to their personal account immediately before it disappears, NGL. Make sure all convos moving forward happen in writing. If she speaks to you directly, send a follow-up email confirming what was said. If she UPS the ante, report her ass to HR and bring the receipts. When she wants to discuss, ask her to provide her examples of where your work performance is a concern for her and why. If she has none, it'll be obvious, but make sure to keep asking. She just threatened you. Take it to HR, and she will get reprimanded or fired. Don't ignore this. She has been doing this her whole life and has gotten away with it. Now it ends.
Thanks for watching my video. Please like it and subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories.